Hey, this is Marc from Alter Ego Comics, and I'm here today with Thom Zahler. We're going to be chatting about a lot of different things. But for those of you that don't know Tom, he's the creator, writer, and artist of the Harvey-nominated fan-favorite superhero romantic comedy Love and Capes. He's also written and drawn issues of IDW's successful My Little Pony miniseries, and this summer he's releasing his new series called Long Distance. Recently, he sold his first script to the Ultimate Spider-Man animated cartoon airing on Disney XD, so that's all kinds of awesome. Tom is also a successful letterer, lettering Deadbeats for Claypool Comics, Skyward for Action Lab, and the Stan Lee's Guardian 30 NHL comic, among others. Tom's a graduate of the Joe Kubert School of Cartoon and Graphic Art, and like myself, he is a fellow Buckeye living in Northeast Ohio. So, Tom, good to talk with you today.
Hey, good to talk with you, Mark.
Awesome. Well, for those of you that don't know, Tom, I consider Tom an old friend. He's been to Alter Ego Comics several times, and if I remember correctly, you had your first free comic book day experience at our shop many, many years ago.
That is true, back with Love and Capes #4. But yeah, you were the first shop to ever bring me out for that. It changed the way I did free comic book day after that.
Yeah, and afterwards your mission was to visit a different store on every free comic book day, right?
Yeah, I wanted to do a different state. It would keep me going until I think '92, but I had a curtail that. I've done Texas I think twice, and I think I've done Delaware twice, and I've done Ohio twice. I was in town last year because my godson was making his first communion, so I wasn't able to travel. But I love that it's the one day of the year that you get to be the rock star, being a cartoonist, where people bring you out, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
They hold parades, they shower you with gift bags. It's
The
awesome.
men cheer, the women swoon, the children wave brightly colored banners. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
that's what
looking for.
free comic book day is all about, folks. Well, we're here today primarily to talk about your new series, Long Distance, and this is a four-issue series or mini-series, and I'm sure you'll tell us more as we go along here. And the first issue hits comic shops on June 10th, so depending on when you're watching this, it's either right around the corner or maybe it just passed. So why don't you tell us what Long Distance is about?
Long distance, because I named it right on the head there, is about a couple who meet in an airport. They both live in different cities, but they hit it off and they decide to start dating long distance. So the four issues covers the initial dates, how the relationship goes. It's actually designed to stand on its own, but I've got a way to do more if it is successful.
And this is being published by IDW.
hmm
Um, so I was talking with Josh here in the shop, and then I forgot to turn my phone off. So and he said he actually picked up the screenplay or the script of this several years ago at Baltimore Comic Con. So what's the story behind Long Distance?
Oh, a long, long time ago, 2003, maybe 2004. 2004, actually. There was a TV show on the Bravo network called Situation Comedy, which was essentially Project Greenlight for sitcoms. So this was actually about the time I was developing Love and Capes, and I decided to pitch a script, and the one I did was called Long Distance. I had one of my problems with a lot of sitcoms is when they decide to keep characters apart and they keep coming up with bad reasons for it, like the famous Ross saying Rachel had fat ankles on Friends. And I thought if you give them an actual reason why it is hard for them to be together, like they live in two different states, the question is not will they get together, it's how do they make it work, and that's inherently more interesting for me. So the script was not selected. I was kind of proud of it. Using on-demand printing, I put together a script book because I hate having stuff that's just lying around not doing anything. So I wanted to have a way to get it out into the world. And when Love and Capes wrapped up, I was talking with IDW about what to do next. Mentioned that along with a couple other pitches. That was the one that they were the most interested in, and I retooled it from there. There is a lot that changed since that initial script, not the least of which, as goofy as it sounds, texting and Twitter, which it allows you to have a kind of telepresence with your significant other when you live across the country, where it is just before you would have to call them and go through social niceties of asking how their day was. And it sounds very dismissive to say that, but if you just want to say, oh, I was at the store and I saw something that made me think of you, it becomes a 5-minute phone conversation when you go through the social stuff that you have to do to make a phone call and interrupt their day, where now you can just send a text saying, hey, look at this, click.
Yeah, I mean, technology.
So the book's been changed, yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I have to wonder, is any of this autobiographical?
A little bit. I was in a long distance relationship a long time ago, and that is slightly based on that. I find to have a relationship, it is best not to write about it. So I take great pains to do that. I've been through a couple, and that's a lot of it informs it, but it is a very different relationship. It is a very different dynamic. But I think there's just, especially visually with comics, being able to show distance and location and texting and just that volume of information that you have in a different way. I think comics are a unique place to do this kind of story, and there's a lot of stuff that I won't get into that didn't necessarily happen with me, but it was kind of stuff that came up, that you think about when you're in that kind of situation.
Okay. And we are going to include a link to a preview of the first issue of Long Distance in the show notes. So look for that, and you can check out, I think it's the first 12 pages, of Long Distance #1. And I should also point out that this is an oversized first issue. How many pages is this first issue?
It is 44. But it's not just the first issue that's oversized. All 4 issues are oversized because I'm an idiot.
He is a workhorse, ladies and gentlemen, and I got a chance to read the whole first issue, and I was sucked into the story, but I'm thinking, this is a long comic. it's Long Distance, and it's a long comic.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big chunk of comic booky goodness. 44, IDW suggested it. It really worked out to be the right amount of pages. It's because it allows me to, if people have read Love and Capes, I know you have. Love and Capes was particularly dense. It was 8 panels a page. This is very much more standard comic book format. It allows me to have quieter moments, have bigger moments in a way that I didn't in Love and Capes, but it also means that it chews up pages a little bit faster. So the 44 it's a really good size for the story I'm trying to tell.
Cool. Well, you mentioned Love and Capes. Let's talk about that for a couple minutes here for people who might not be familiar with Love and Capes. Let's talk about that. What's the premise behind that, and are we going to see any more of Marc and Abby down the road? How do you feel now that you've left that universe behind for a little bit?
Love and Capes, and this pitch I have down because I've been making it for the last 6 years, is a superhero romantic comedy. It's about a superhero who says, I love my girlfriend and I'm going to tell her that, but if I tell her that, I have to tell her everything. So is there ever a good time to tell your girlfriend you have X-ray vision? What does she want for Christmas when she knows you can crush coal into diamonds? Things like that. There are 4 volumes for trade collections collecting 24 pages, but I count it as 25 because the wedding issue is double-sized, and 25 seems like a nice round number, even though it's divisible by 5. And I got the series to where I was always trying to about a year and a half ago. That's where 4 ends, and it is, to me, it is such the perfect ending for the series that to come back, I need to have a strong story, and I don't have that yet. I have thoughts about how to do it. If I bring it back, I will probably focus on Darkblade and Amazonia and less on Marc and Abby. That way, I'm not tied to the cycle of the child. Only because if I start making it a book about raising a super baby, then it's not mad about you, it's mad about us, and it's a very different book. Whereas if I make it about a different relationship, it's different love, different capes, but it's still very much the same premise. I really think, especially when you're an independent guy, that story should end. 1, because I have other stories to tell, and 2, because I like that sense of completion. I mean, we're all waiting for George R.R. Martin to finish Game of Thrones so that it is a complete thing. We all wanted to see the end of Return of the Jedi because it becomes it becomes a complete work, and we all like really good TV show series finales. So I don't want it. I didn't want it to just linger and keep going and become like the really crappy last season of Scrubs. I wanted to end on the high note, and I'm not saying I'll never come back to it. It's just the kind of thing where I have to have a story that is strong enough to make it worth coming back for. I do miss them though.
It really is a great story, folks. If you haven't checked it out, hit up your local comic shop and look for the Love and Capes volumes. And kind of a cool story behind it. You were self-publishing Love and Capes for what, at least 2/3 of its run, and then IDW.
Yeah, the first 13 issues.
Yeah, and then IDW picked it up. You finished off with them.
Yeah, IDW had been doing the trades, and I was doing the individual issues. And then after issue 13, the market changed a little bit in dealing with Diamond, and it became a lot more feasible for IDW to pick it up, which also got it into stores in a way that I wasn't able to as a small publisher. It also made the book monthly, which was a big change for me, because what I would do is I would work ahead. Love and Capes was coming out quarterly, and being able to have a book come out on a monthly format, something I probably wouldn't have done on my own, I think helped break into the consciousness of people, because it was just showing up regularly. It was a lot of work, and it was very weird to be working on 3 issues ahead that people hadn't seen before the first issue came out, because on a quarterly basis you can get reaction from issue 1 before you start issue 2. It's actually the same thing that's weird about Long Distance to me, is that the book goes, the last issue goes to the printer at the end of this month. So I'm going to have little to no feedback from anyone about things they liked or didn't like before the whole series is finished.
Well, good luck with that. I'm sure that's got to be a little nerve-wracking, but it's also, I think, great to have that regular schedule. I mean, so many readers today want that. Every 30 days there's a new issue. When it takes longer than that, they start to drift or they forget about it. Or so having it come out on a monthly schedule and knowing that the final issue is going to the printer, I think should reassure fans that this is going to come out on a regular schedule, and you should look for it every month.
Yeah, small publishers have a hard time saying, "Oh, I'm going to do a 32-part series and I'm totally going to be around for the entire thing." There aren't a lot of us that have done something like that. So I like manageable chunks. It also allows for more flexibility in my career. It just if I get something awesome to do that's going to take me away, I would kill to write and draw an issue of Sensation Comics. That's the thing I'm currently pushing for. I'm not shy about it. And if that comes up, that has a whole different set of deadlines, and it's nice to be able to mix in the long-term, huge personal goals with other career goals along the way.
So if anybody from DC Comics editorial is watching, hire this man.
I've got a pitch. I've got 1 or 2, in fact. So
awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about your fan base has really expanded over the last couple of years because of your work on My Little Pony over at IDW. Talk a little bit about that. What's it like having fans of all ages, but I know you get a lot of young girls that are coming up and wanting sketches of different ponies and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the young kids, the young girls, that's the coolest part. I like fostering the new audience, and so many people they're not ironically excited, but they temper their excitement. And the cool thing about kids is they don't, because it is the most awesome thing in their world, because they're 7 and they don't have a lot of experience. So My Little Pony is super huge. It is just it reminds me a lot of Star Trek fans, honestly. And being a Star Trek fan, I think that's part of how I relate to them, where I remember the excitement. I remember the clumsiness, where when you decide to meet one of your, when you meet somebody who is on Star Trek, you want that moment where they know that you exist too, and you're mostly going, "Oh, I thought it was really cool how you kept in the Enterprise. That was great." But having been on the other side of that, I hope it puts me in a good place to receive and make these people feel welcome, because it's been a career boost. It's changed the way I do conventions. It's, like you said, it's opened me up to an entirely different audience, and I'm incredibly appreciative of it. It's a really good property to work on. The characters are really well realized, are really easy to write for, And I have a new two-parter coming out this summer too, because June and July are apparently all about me getting books out. That brings back Flutterbat, which will be kind of neat. If any of your guys are pony fans, yes, Flutterbat is coming back in the comics.
Yeah, I was going to mention that I just saw the solicit. I think it's in the current previews catalog. It may have been in last month for the first part of your two-parters. So all Zahler all the time at IDW. There's going to be a month where you just draw every cover for IDW. The subscription variants will be
That'd be
Thom
awesome.
Zahler covers.
That would be fantastic.
Well,
I'll talk to Chris Ariel about that.
Speaking of covers, I do want to quickly mention that fellow Ohio person, or I guess she used to be Ohio, I guess she just moved, but Laura Innes did the variant cover to issue #1 of Long Distance, right?
She did, yes. I imposed on a great number of friends to do variant covers. So Laura did the first one. She was the first person I thought of. We've known each other for a while. She's with IDW too, with The Dreamer, which is an excellent book. We were actually just in Washington, D.C. for Awesome Con last weekend. And her book is very historical and it is very broad-based, but she does those quiet moments so well. I definitely wanted her involved. My friend Mike Collins, who's an animator he worked on Adventure Time. He's working for DreamWorks now, did a cover. My friend Sean Tiffany, who inked me on a Capes cover, who I went to Kubert School with, is doing one. And then Tony Felice, my fellow pony artist, is drawing the alternate cover for issue 4. So I had a pretty good lineup of people from who to impose and say, hey, would you do a cover for me?
That is impressive. Well, we've talked about your comics work, but I mentioned in the intro that you recently sold your first script to Ultimate Spider-Man. Talk a little bit about your experience in the world of TV, whether it's animation or trying to get some live action activity off the ground. How has that been for you?
Well, I will tell you the weirdest thing right now is that the episode has not aired in the United States. It actually aired in the United Kingdom about a month ago. So it is in the world. I believe that clears me from some of my NDA, but I don't know how much, so I'm going to be a little vague about a few things. But I've been trying to get into animation writing for a while. A friend of mine Amy Wolfram, who worked on the Teen Titans cartoon, she was talking to me about going in animation writing, and I said I don't. I live in Ohio. I didn't want to be the guy who says, "Oh, I'll just make a script and they'll send it to me, right? Or I'll send it to you." Right? That's how it gets made. I have friends who live out there and do everything that's involved with that. I didn't want to take it dismissively. And she told me when I was running the show, you would have been exactly who I would have hired. And I said, okay, I guess we're doing this. And I know a lot of animation writers. I was friends with Dwayne McDuffie, Eugene's son, Charlotte. All those people helped me along the way looking at my spec script, and eventually Eugene became story editor on Ultimate Spider-Man and hired me to do the first part of the season finale for season 3, which it's a very different experience writing a script like that, but it is an awesome experience. It's very dialogue heavy. It's so much of what I write is written for me to draw, so I'm the only one who has to understand the notes. Working with My Little Pony, I have to have Hasbro approve it, and then half the time that's going to an artist who has to draw it. There is an entirely different language that goes along with building a script for animation in terms of how you set things up, how you say it, what things are possible in animation that you can't do in TV, or I'm sorry, that you can't do in comics, and the other way around, things you can do in comics that you can't do in TV. But the coolest part, I think I can say this, there are other actors other than Spider-Man who appear in the cartoon that I did, including Iron Man, who's voiced by Adrian Passar, and I am a huge fan of Adrian Passar. He did a series called Prophet, which is one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and it's just weird thinking he had to say words that I wrote. That's been the coolest part of it, is knowing. I have one photo that I'm not allowed to share, but I have one photo of the recording session, and it's just amazing to me to see all these people who have to say things that I'm telling them to say. So that's amazing. or spectacular, or web of, or whatever Spider-Man adjective goes along with that.
So, any idea when that's going to air in the U.S.?
I don't. It's the first part of the 4-part finale. I think if they start showing episodes right away, it's still a month away in cycle, but I know they also show episodes out of order. In production order, the one that is right before mine was the Halloween special, and that's already on. So nobody knows when it's going to be on. But I am so looking forward to seeing it.
Well, I'm sure you'll monitor the situation and tweet out and shout from the mountaintops when that episode is going to air. So we'll keep our eyes peeled and share that with.
Yes, I will not be subtle about it.
All right. Well, you are just.
I will not. Yeah.
It will not be a secret.
No.
But you're just a crazy busy guy. You've got, multiple projects in comics. You're entering the world of TV writing, but you also have a very busy convention season schedule as well. So if people want to see you this year, where can they find you?
At all of them. As near as I can tell, I am at all of them. I will be this year so far scheduled. I have a one-day show in Dallas next week. I will be at Fiesta Equestria in Houston. I will be at Heroes Con in Charlotte. I will be at the big one, San Diego, at Booth 2000, Booth of the Future from 15 years ago. San Diego, they tend to give you the same space you had last year, and I am sitting on that valuable piece of real estate as long as I can. I will, by that time, the first and maybe second issue of Long Distance will be out, so I'll have those there. August is pretty quiet at this point, and then September starts the Dragon Con, Cincinnati Comic Expo, Baltimore Comic Con, and New York Comic Con swing. I am sure that I'm missing some along the way, and I'm a cheap date. If you fly me out and put me up in a hotel, chances are I'll do the show. So there could be a couple more that get added after that. Oh, and Akron Con in Akron, Ohio, which is just a fantastic show.
So plenty of opportunities for those of you that are in Ohio to see Thom, whether it's Akron or Cincinnati, and we are working on getting Thom back here to Alter Ego probably sometime in November when the trade paperback comes out for Long Distance, right?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's been too long since I've been back there.
Excellent. Well, we've talked about your where you are convention-wise, but how can people stay in touch with you online?
I am now at Thom Zahler on Twitter. I changed my handle from Love and Capes a little while ago because I was doing so much other stuff, which is THOMZAHLER. My main website is thomz.com, THOMZ.com. And then that's where my main blog is. You can find me at loveandcapes.com. I have a Facebook page, Love and Capes. I have a Tumblr, thomzahler.tumblr.com, but I'm not on that one a lot. I'm trying to get better about that because it's a really good place to post artwork, but I can't spend so much time posting the stuff I do that I run out of doing the stuff that I do.
That is the tricky thing, and I think that's something that a lot of people don't think about. But when you're on the retail side and you start trying to book people to come in for signings, or you think about comics that have been delayed or anything, and anything that takes you away from your studio is going to cause delays in getting the product finished. So I'm amazed that you can go to as many shows as you do and still put out the output that you do. It's impressive.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
as far as promoting stuff. Oh, sorry.
No.
I was gonna say, as far as promoting stuff, it feels like every time. You remember in Astro City where the Samaritan keeps track of how many minutes he's actually flying between doing things. That's kind of what I feel that every moment I spend promoting or lining stuff up or booking travel or figuring out what books to order, which is what I'm doing right now. It just I need more time drawing, but it's part of the job. My job is staying employed, so it's part of the work.
Well, and it's obvious that you love what you do, and that's half the battle, more than half the battle right there. Well, I do want to appreciate, or thank you for taking the time to chat with us today. I want to encourage everybody to pick up Long Distance #1 when it hits comic shops on June 10th. And just a reminder, we'll put a link in the show notes to a preview of the first 12 pages. And looking forward to catching up with you. I may see you in Cincinnati, but I'll definitely see you in New York in October. And then we'll get you back here at Alter Ego in November.
Excellent. Sounds good.
Well, thank you, sir, and thank you for watching, folks. We'll see you next time.
See ya.